Hey guys, so I'm starting with my foundation already done. I have the NYX Define and Refine foundation on in the shades Light and Fair. I'm then applying an eyeshadow base mainly to my left eyelid, but I'm going to take any leftover that I have and just blend it onto the other lid. For contour, I'm using the NYX Matte Bronzer in the shade Light, and to thin out my face just slightly, I'm blending that contour in further a little bit and also up onto the jawline a little bit more. And then I'm using a NYX Illuminator in the shade Ritualistic to highlight. And then for my brows, I'm using a shade that's a couple shades lighter than I would normally use, and I'm just filling in my natural shape and elongating it slightly, as well as bringing it into a point at the front of the brow. I'm then going to clean it up and start thinning it out as much as I can using a concealer, and then I'm going to go ahead and round out that point that I have at the beginning of the brow. And I did use an eyeshadow for my brows, so I'm just going to go ahead and set that in place with a clear brow gel. And then for my eyes, I'm using the original Naked Basics palette, and I'll be using the shades W.O.S, Naked 2, which is almost gone because I used to use it for my contour, and then Faint, which I also used on my brow. So I'm starting out with W.O.S, and I'm just applying that over the entire lid for a nice blending base. And now I'm applying Naked 2, blending that into the crease area and also down the contour of the nose. Then I'm going in with a small amount of Faint just to help define and darken the crease a little bit. And I'm going to make sure to blend out all those edges. Next, I'm going in with a NYX Wonder Pencil in the shade Light to start opening up my eye, and I'm just applying this along my waterline, blending it down onto the lash line and onto my lashes just to make my eye look a bit bigger. Now I'm curling my lashes, and for liner I'm using the NYX Felt Tip Liner in the shade Extreme Black. Of course, hold your mirror so that you can actually see in it. And then we're going to start winging out this eyeliner, and I'm starting from the bottom of that Wonder Pencil that we applied earlier, not from my natural lash line, again because we want to open up our eye and make it look bigger. Then I'm going to define that wing and continue filling in the line across the top lash line, thinning it out as I'm moving in. And then from the very bottom of that wing, I'm going to take it in about halfway underneath the eye. Again, I am taking it just slightly below the lash line to make my eye look a little bit bigger. And I'm also applying a little bit more of that Wonder Pencil just to the inner corner and blending that out. Then for lashes, I'm applying a couple coats of black mascara to the top lashes only and applying some very subtle natural lashes to the outer half of the eye just to give it a nice little flare at the end. Once the adhesive is completely dry, I'm going back in with that felt tip liner to camouflage the lash band. So now we're done with the more normal side of the makeup, and we're going to move on to the Titan side. So I'm starting out with a brow pencil, and I'm just using this to mark out all the torn areas of the face. You can do this as far over as you want to. You could take it straight down, whatever you want. I'm going to use the pencil to mark this out down onto my neck and chest as well. And I'm also going to mark out any general details of the Titan around the eye, the holes coming out from the mouth, and then the muscles on the neck and the chest. I did use some reference photos, and also I made a face chart for this one just so I had a better idea of what I actually wanted to do on my face. In general, the holes that she has on her cheeks are a little bit smaller, more rectangular or square. I decided to make mine bigger and curve and lengthen out the corners. Then I decided to give her some bloody drool coming down from the sides of her mouth, and then I'm also lengthening the corners of the mouth out. So now that I'm done outlining everything for my base, I'm using a mix of a light concealer, a white cream makeup, and a kind of a corally salmon lipstick. And I don't know if you can tell right here, but it's a very pale mixture with a hint of like a peachy orangey tone. And of course you can play around with your own mixtures until you get a color that you like. So I'm just applying it to this entire side except for those areas that we're going to fill in with the darker red later on. I'm using my Sigma 3D HD Kabuki to fill in the general areas, and then we'll go in with a smaller brush to get the smaller areas after. So now I'm going in with a smaller angled brush to get more of the details in smaller areas. This does not need to be perfect at this point because we are going to go back in again later and do some more outlining and shading. Then for the darker areas, I'm going to start filling those in with a cream blush. I will leave the shade name down below. And I'm just starting with the eye area because I wasn't sure if I wanted to use this or try something else. So I'm just going to fill that in, and now I'm going over it with a red eyeshadow. I'm going to concentrate the most color around the edge and then blend it in toward the eye, building up the color as I go. And you'll notice that I, for the most part, am stippling on this color and then blending out just a little bit so that I don't move around that cream base too much. And then before I forget, I'm using the NYX HD Finishing Powder in the shade Translucent to set our base that we applied earlier. Then I'm using a clean powder brush to just swipe away any excess powder. Now I'm going to repeat what we did on the eye area and fill in the remaining blank spaces. For the smaller areas, I'm using the smaller angled brush, and for the bigger areas, I'm using that foundation brush. I'm going to go back and forth between a smaller and a bigger eyeshadow brush when applying the red as well. So now that I have all the red filled in, I'm going to use a brown eyeshadow to contour and a yellow eyeshadow to kind of highlight. And starting out with that yellow, I'm pretty much applying that to the entire eye area as well as to the rest of the red sections. And then moving to the brown eyeshadow, I'm starting out by applying that into the crease and then blending out and also down into the outer corner, kind of that outer V of the eye. And then I'm also going to apply this to the inner corner and blend that up into the crease. Now I'm going to start applying that around the inside edge and also blend that in toward the eye. And then as you can see, I left a little area blank under the eye, so I have more of a highlight there. I'm going to continue blending the brown onto the red areas, focusing around the edges, blending in toward the center. And again, I've switched to a thinner brush to really get around those edges. On the lips, you can see that I'm going for a bit of an ombre look. As I'm blending this in, I'm giving it more of a smudgy look rather than a nice smooth blend to give it more of an uneven, rough texture. Now I'm going to go back in with that yellow eyeshadow to brighten up the highlight areas. Again, giving it kind of an uneven, smudgy look. And now using the brown eyeshadow on a small angled brush, I'm going to start outlining that torn shifting area of the face, and I'm also going to start shading that onto the tightened side so that it looks like it is underneath our regular normal face. And I didn't want to use a black for this. I wanted it to be a little more subtle because I wanted it to feel like it was shifting over to the tightened side rather than we have a torn face and the tighten is underneath, if that makes sense. And I am going to switch to a clean blending brush to blend out that shadow. And then I'm going to use my concealer to both help define the shape as well as add a little bit of highlight along the edge. Again, I'm using a clean blending brush to help blend that into the skin. I'm then going in with a white eyeshadow to highlight this side of the face, down the nose, the chin, the side of the forehead, the cheek, and the highlight of the cheekbone, and then also down on the collarbone and that neck muscle, as well as the shoulder. Next, I'm going in with a black body paint and my Sigma E11, my fine detail brush, and I'm going to start outlining the edges of the red. And then I'm also going to start blending this in toward the eye as well, like we did with the other eyeshadows. I'm also adding in some expression or shading lines on the forehead as well as around the outside of the eye. And I'm going to go over the black lines with a dark red body paint, which is just a black and a red mixed together. And then keeping with that dark red, I'm going to create 2 curves underneath the eye, leaving a little space in between each. And then I'm also creating some more shading lines on the outer and inner corners of that eye shape. And then below those 2 curves that we made under the eye, we're creating some upside down U shapes. So we're taking these all the way across both lines. And it helped me to pull the skin a little bit taut underneath the eye just so that I had a smoother surface and it wouldn't move around when I was creating these little teeny lines. And then just like we did with the brown eyeshadow, I'm now taking a black eyeshadow, applying it around the inside edge of the eye and then blending it in toward the eye. And I'm also going to take this to darken the crease and outer corner. I'm now just curling my lashes and applying a black eyeliner to the waterline all around the eye, smudging that onto the top and lower lash line. Then I'm applying some black mascara to top and bottom lashes just to darken them, and then I'm adding some of those shading lines around the chin, and then we're going to continue outlining and shading the red spaces like we did on the eye. And also where that shifting torn area goes on to the red part, I am going to outline that part with the black, just because it is a bit darker and I wanted to have it defined a little bit more. And then around the mouth, I'm not using the black, I'm using just the mixture of dark red that we made. And again, I'm going for an ombre effect, so I'm going to blend that toward the center of the mouth, and then we're going to take the black eyeshadow like we did on the eye and blend that around the inside edges of each of the red sections. And then I'm finishing it off with a red lipstick. I'm applying this to the center of the lips and then pressing them together and using my finger to help blend it out into the darker red. And then I'm using that darker red body paint also to go over those black lines around the chin. Popping in some blue anime contacts, and then we're done. And this wig is another one from Amazon. I had a hard time finding a wig for this look, but I finally found this one. It's a little bit dark and a little bit too long, but you can cut it. And I think it ended up looking pretty good. I pulled it up on one side and left it crazy down on the other side, and then I just have a torn white shirt on, and that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Leave me your requests down in the comments, and also don't forget all the products used and all the details you may want to know are in the description below. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.